In this video we're going to have a look at how we can set the position or the location of a window, and we're going to do so using the geometry method. The previous video in this playlist looked at the configure method, and you can see that this line is using that very method previously considered. And if you look in the brackets here, you can see that we're setting the width to 200 and the height to 100. So when this program runs, what we will get is a window that looks like this, where you can see the width is much bigger than the height. In fact, it's twice as big. But we can see that the width and the height was set by this method here. I am now going to amend this computer program, and the amendment can be seen here. I've commented out this line of code, and in place of it I'm going to be using this, and you can see that I'm using geometry as the method to be invoked. And in brackets you can see there's a string, and the string is 200, then an X, then 100. Now if I run this program, what we will get is shown here, and you can see it's exactly the same window as we've seen previously here. So this program and this one effectively do the same, and what's happened is I have replaced the configure method with the geometry method, and I'm passing in a string where this represents the width and this represents the height, and this X has to be there so you can distinguish between the width and the height. Before we look closer at the geometry method, let's consider a monitor. And here you can see I've got a diagram that shows a monitor, and inside being displayed on the monitor you can see that there's an application, and in fact it's the Python application, and it is actually set at full screen. Now if we consider this particular point within the application, within the monitor, then that point has got this value. X has got the value of 0 and Y has got the value of 0. Now it's a little bit like a graph where you have X and Y coordinates. If I therefore go and have a look at just the application, the full screen application without the image of the monitor here, we can see that in this slide. And if I now say, well, if we go in that direction, X increases, and if I go in that direction, Y increases. It's a bit like a graph, but it's not the usual way in which we see a graph, in the sense that Y doesn't usually increase in this direction when we talk about graphs. Y usually decreases in this direction. But if we just accept that this is how we look at screens and look at graphical user interfaces, and we realize that Y increases in this direction, and we've already seen the direction in which X increases. Now if I now choose a particular point on this graphical user interface, and I'm going to choose this point, and if we now ask, well, where is the point of this arrow, what you need to do is to say, well, where is it with respect to the X axis? And the answer is here, when X is 0. Where is it with respect to the Y axis? And the answer is, it's actually Y equals 100. So that arrowhead with respect to the full screen application that you're seeing has the following value. X is 0 and Y is 100. Let's consider another position, another location in this full screen application. Let's have a look at this point as represented by the tip of the arrow. Where is that? Well, we need to consider what its X value is, and if we come up here we can see that's where X is 0. Where is it with respect to Y? Well, if you remember the direction in which Y increases, this has got to be bigger than 100. And in fact, if we come across, it is 200, showing us that we've gone further down the axis, we've gone more positive. Consequently, this tip of the arrow is at this position, when X is 0 and Y is 200. Let's now consider a different position, a different location. Let's have a look at this arrow, and where's the tip of this arrow? Well, we need to have a look at what its X value is and what its Y value is. So if we go up to the X, we can see that it's obviously going to have to be bigger than 0, because as you move from left to right, as you look at the screen, X is getting bigger, and I'm saying that that is X is 100. Where's Y in this? Well, we come along here and we can see that Y is at value 200. So we can say for the tip of this arrow, we can represent that as when x is 100 and y is 200. Let's consider another position. Let's consider this position here. Now, what is the value of the point of this arrow? Well, we need to see where it is on the x and the y axis. And we can see that we've got when x is 100, and if we go along to the y, we can see that is when y is 0. So this arrowhead, the point of the arrow, is at position x is 100 and y is 0. Let's consider the program we initially looked at on the first slide of this video. And this program statement was part of that program. And you can see now that I've commented that out. But if you look down here, I'm still using the geometry method. And in brackets, you can see that I've got this string. Here we've got the width. And here we've got the height. So that hasn't changed from here. But you'll notice that I've now got two plus signs and a 0 and a 0. Now these two zeros represent the x and the y as we've been describing them on the previous couple of slides. So what will happen when this program runs? Well, I think we can say that we're going to have a window that is 200 by 100, and let's see what these two zeros give us. Well, here I've just took a screenshot of part of the window, and you can see that the window is in the top left corner. Why the top left corner? Because this position here is 0, 0. So you can see the top left corner of the window is in the top left corner of the full screen application. Now that's there because we've got a 0 here and we've got a 0 here, meaning the x position is a 0 and the y position is a 0. Or if you like, the x coordinate and the y coordinate are both 0. I further amended the program here, and you can see that I've commented out this line that we've just been discussing, and I've now typed in this line. And there is no difference apart from one position of the parameters in this line. And you can see the alteration is here. This is 100, whereas previously you can see it was 0. Now this is the y position, and the x position is still 0. So when this program executes, what we're going to see is this. And you can see that the window is here. Now why is it in this position? Well, we need to look at this 0 and 100, because this point here is when x is 0 and y is 100. X hasn't altered, y has. We've gone further down the application in this direction. Let's consider one more example. Here we can see that this line is going to invoke the geometry method, and we're going to be taking in this string. Now this represents the width of the window we're going to be producing. This represents the height of the window we're going to be producing. This is the value of x, the x-axis position, and this is the y-axis position. So if we look at the runtime for this, what we're going to see is that the window is over here. Now why is it in this position? Well, we need to consider this particular point here, and that's when x is 800 and y is 200. You see, we've come in this direction for x up to the 800 position, and we've come in this direction on the y to the 200 position. So you can see the top left corner of the window has been dictated by these two numbers here. Before I finish this video, let's make sure we're aware of the various bits of importance. You see, this is the message. It's a message to this object. This is the method that's going to get invoked. And this is the parameter that we're going to send. This represents the width of the window. This represents the height of the window. This represents the position on the x-axis, and this represents the position of the y-axis, and these two together dictate the location of the window, and that window is going to have this size, 200 by 100. The things I'd like to emphasize is this needs to be a string. As you can see, we have these quotes. When we're looking at these two numbers, you can see that they are separated by an x. when we look at these two numbers, you can see there was a need for a plus sign here and here. So you just need to get used to this syntax. You could say it's a little bit cryptic, but the point is, it isn't that difficult, and you just need to get used to using this string here. That's the width, that's the height of the window, that's the X coordinate position, that's the Y coordinate position. Here we have to use an X, and in these two locations we have to use the plus sign. Check out the supporting website for these videos. In addition, why not follow me on Twitter, as I issue a tweet every time I upload a new video.